Amol, great to have you here. Welcome to another chapter of ventureLAB Chats. I think this is a podcast where we try to essentially talk about the startup journey, learn about the entrepreneurs, such as yourself. I'm glad to be hosting this one with you, given that we've been working together for quite some time now.
Absolutely.
Maybe as a starting point, I think people more or less know who I am from the last couple episodes, but maybe just as a refresher, I'm a mentor, of course, here at ventureLAB. I also have my own fund called Canada Ventures, but been in the space for about 20 years on deep tech, hardware, clean tech, all these kinds of things. Now, Amol, maybe you could tell a little bit about yourself.
Great. Thanks, Yuri. I appreciate being here. My name's Amol Karnick. I'm president and CEO of KA Imaging. I'm one of the co-founders as well. My background goes, I say GE person, but goes back to a Waterloo grad, electrical engineering, did my master's in McGill, and then I was at GE. And then I've been in the healthcare imaging space and just imaging for 25 plus years. So.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense given kind of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
I always say founders should have an unfair advantage when they're building a business. Don't just do something because you heard somebody else thought it was a cool idea, or you saw somebody else execute that, and you want to be the Uber of as well. Yeah. Do something that you have a unique advantage in. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of what KA Imaging does and why
Absolutely.
You have a unique advantage in that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Yuri. So yeah, absolutely. So KA, I always like to start with our vision. And the reason I say that, it sort of defines who we do and what we do and how we're doing it. We say we're doing innovative X-ray everywhere. And when you think about X-ray, you've probably had an X-ray. Everyone's had an X-ray.
Just last week.
Yeah. Unfortunately, did you know that if when it sounds like you have a bit of a cough, chances are you missed that cough that you're looking for in the X-ray.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately the truth with current X-ray. It's the workhorse. Everyone gets an X-ray. 60% of all medical imaging is done with X-ray today. But there's a chance it misses things. It's a significant chance it's missed something. So we're trying to do things that are better, that improve X-ray. But at the same time, we don't change workflow. We want to make sure we get better outcomes with the same X-ray-ish technology that people are used to. So that way it feels like what you've gone to the hospital for last week. But it just gives you much better outcomes. That's part of our technology, but X-ray, and the reason we put in everywhere, because people don't realize, everyone first thinks about X-ray as healthcare, because you've been to the hospital, you've had an X-ray, you've been asked to get an X-ray, but it's used everywhere. It's used in security. Think about the baggage scanners when you're going through the airports. It's used in non-destructive testing, in the field, imaging things, because it penetrates. It can see things in a closed box effectively and see what's inside. So X-ray is used everywhere.
So like trying to realize the comic book vision for X-ray, which, is Superman can look through walls and see what's going on.
Exactly.
You guys are trying to create that technology essentially.
Exactly.
Now, what is it that makes your technology, differentiated versus traditional X-ray or other people trying to work within that field?
Yeah, great question again. So when we look at X-ray today is monochromatic. It's, I like to describe X-ray today as a shadow inside your body. It's a shadow. And when you look at a shadow, you can't really distinguish anything like what's a bone in there, what's a soft tissue. You can't distinguish that because X-ray has one X-ray image. You get a black and white image, and that's it. So what we've done is we've created spectral X-ray. So the incoming X-ray is now split into 3 different energy bins. So in a way, like your eye can see 3 different colors and create an amazing color world, we've done the same for X-ray.
Interesting.
So that incoming X-ray is split into 3 energy bins. Then we use each of these 3 different pieces of that X-ray to recreate the image, but then also extract information that's more valuable. So when you look at the chest wall, I think the chest wall is easy for them to understand. Rib cage do a great job of protecting your lungs. But when the ribs are in the way, it makes it tough to see the underlying lungs, for example. So what we've done is we can separate and look now at just the lung field. So we are seeing pneumonias, pneumothoraxes, cancers significantly better. In the bone side, if we look at the bone image, we can see fractures better. But we can also determine if someone's going for a lung screening, if a nodule is calcified or not. If it's calcified, you don't need to worry about it. If it's not, it may be cancerous. Mm-hmm. But we've also extended what we're doing. Now we can actually see calcification in the coronary arteries. So think about, heart attacks. That's, your vessels getting blocked. We can see some of that blockage now that normally you wouldn't be able to see with X-ray. And interesting enough, our latest thing is that we're looking at bone density. So now with one X-ray image, we can tell you how good is your lungs, do you have any cardiac issues, and what's your bone health like.
Interesting. So giving that much, like that spectrum, like you were
Correct.
saying,
yeah,
it's it makes a lot of sense actually, and I guess like in terms of other applications, I guess same kind of thing applies. So being able to see more clear image of the thing that you're looking at, whether that's technology you're trying to kind of understand or security, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when you think about security, we've been working with Incutel, the CIA investment arm, on security. Now, for obvious reasons, we can't go into details, but it's security purposes because we can see better. We can determine what's inside as well, better than anyone else can. So again, if you look at the standard X-ray, it would just say, it's black and white. Yeah. It may or may not be this. Yeah. We can say, oh, well, this is, they like to look at, say, something that's organic or inorganic materials.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And I can, to your point, anybody who's looked at an X-ray before, unless if you're a doctor, I can tell you that when they take my X-ray and I look at the image, I have no idea what the hell it says. Right. So it's interesting to kind of be able to see that more familiar spectrum, I guess, that helps identify, especially for, people that maybe aren't doctors.
Absolutely.
And so that's really interesting. Now, this all sounds exciting. You're creating the technology to be able to look in detail behind things and to see what's there. Definitely can imagine the applications, but why did you want to do this?
So in the healthcare space, I've been wanting to be. So let's go back to high school type thing. Now that's for me a lot longer than you. I was looking at being an engineer or a doctor. And then I saw there's biomedical, like split down the middle. I get to touch the healthcare side, but I also get to think about the engineering side. So that's why I did my undergrad in Waterloo, did my electrical engineering, but then I went to McGill and did, again, master's in electrical, but it was all focused in biomedical. I did ultrasound research. So I've always had that want and desire to go into that. So the healthcare space.
Healthcare
technologies as well. Yeah. And I always like to give this as a simple story as well. When I was interviewing, so when I was coming off of finishing my master's, I had a company like GE, and I had another one that was a defense company. And in the interview, they even asked this defense company, they said, like, you know what we do? Yes, you build things that, destroy things. Yeah. They were saying some of that as well. Are you okay with that? My answer in an interview, of course, you're selling yourself. It was, as long as I'm not pulling the trigger. Yeah. But when I had the offer from them versus GE Healthcare, trying to save people's lives rather than take them, it was, for me at least, an easy choice.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Is there? How did you come across wanting to do this technology? Was this something that you saw? From a work perspective when you're at GE Health, what was the aha moment that kind of led you down this path?
So I've had quite a diversity since GE. I was also an executive in residence, a mentor at Communitech in Waterloo. Mm-hmm. I met my co-founder, Kareem, through there. And so he actually went away. I ended up leaving, went off to another company. Kareem went off. He took a year sabbatical, went to Kyrgyzstan. Mm. And he saw there was a need of taking X-ray technology. So when we look at quality of life indicators, when we're thinking about global health perspective, without imaging, our quality of life indicators all drop. Because if you can't see what's going on, you can't help them. We can use a stethoscope, you can, get verbal history, but you can't get a real sense. So he came back from that sabbatical. He had reached out. He said, this is probably a year later, maybe 2 years later. Actually, probably 3 years later. Sorry, it's been a while, but it was a while later. And reached out saying, I'm interested in doing global health. I've got some great technology in X-ray in my lab. I want to take it out to the global health side. Are you interested in working with me? I looked at looked at the technology, looked at the initial global health application, said, absolutely. We do a lot in our Western world. We got great access to a lot of technology, but how do we improve the global health of everyone? Mm-hmm. So that's why I like to state our vision is innovative X-ray everywhere, because we want to make sure we can help people around the world.
That everybody benefits from it.
Exactly.
Interesting. And so, you're building this company, you've got some traction, you got customers, you've been able to kind of tap into certain markets. All of this sounds exciting and great, but, no journey. Having worked with so many startups for so many years, I know no journey isn't without its bumps and bruises along the way.
Absolutely.
So, maybe something that would be useful to go into is also talking a little bit about kind of those challenges that you have had. What have been the most difficult things that you've had to do while building this company that have really helped shape the company and yourself as a founder?
Difficult is, I think what's nice about having co-founders is the difficulty and challenge are shared, which does make a big difference. I've seen a lot of successful companies in the healthcare and non-healthcare space, and if you notice, not just one founder. Mm-hmm. It's always great to have to share. I think the most difficult part for us was losing one of our co-founders. Mm-hmm. So we did lose one of our co-founders a few years ago to cancer.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So he was the youngest. He was Kareem's grad student who started the company with us. And unfortunately, he passed away. And, being young, 29, that was probably, there's always business challenges. Yeah. But business challenges can be overcome. Mm-hmm. This one was a harder challenge to overcome. Now, we'd been prepared for it. The company had been prepared. We had already made changes and stuff to be ready, but,
You knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So that, I would say, is our biggest challenge that we've had in the company.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough. And in terms of, I guess, the team, you talked a little bit about the team. I guess, how do you manage the dynamics of the team? Because, you talk about med tech. I do think there is a commonality there where, usually med tech teams tend to have bigger teams, tend to have more co-founders. Part of that is sometimes, trying to divide the technical roles with the business roles and the operational roles. And so, how have you guys managed to kind of figure these pieces out? And as you grow, how has that changed?
Absolutely. So we're pretty clear. It was good, Kareem being technical. But, what's great about Kareem, he did his MBA at Toronto as well in Rodman's. Mm-hmm. So he's got a good business sense. But, we clearly divided. Okay, I focus on the commercial operational side, he focuses on engineering, but then we help each other. We support each other in each role as well, so we can grow the company. We both have the focus of growth on the company. It's about getting into the market and growing the business. And so when I need to jump into engineering and help, absolutely. He's great at finances as well, so financial modeling, he jumps in and helps. And we talk about strategy, about the pricing, the go-to-market. We've now grown, to your point. We're about 50 people now, 45, 50 people. I've brought in, a great VP of sales for different verticals. We got some from healthcare and non-healthcare. So as we mentioned in the past, we do non-healthcare as well. So the technology is the same. It's just the channels to market are different. Yeah. So we've brought in people in the operational side, brought in good controller. I think, having a controller is extremely important.
Especially in a healthcare technology company. Yeah.
And then operational people, then service, applications. When we look at doing demos, you need someone who's certified X-ray tech. Mm-hmm. So, everyone talks about salespeople closing the deals, but without a good applications person, forget about even getting that deal done. Right. Because you got to convince the hospital this is great technology. And that's what their job is for. Yeah. So to your point, we start out small, but we've been growing, adding people, marketing, got all functions now sort of filled out. And as you know, we're in the process of raising the next round to allow us to grow. to allow us to bring in more people in these different areas.
And have you found that challenging, bringing in more people, like, as a startup, in terms of like not only finding the right people, but, convincing them, getting them to believe in the journey, incentivizing them, whether that's good pay or equity. I mean, depending on what field these people are coming from, some of these are presumably giving up other opportunities, right?
Absolutely. So we do sell on the equity side, like you said, the option side. We can't match the salaries of some of these other companies, but it's also about its innovation.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting. It's different. Do you really want to sell the same thing you've been selling for the rest of your life, and you can't put your mark on something that says you did something different? You brought innovation to market. You made a difference in this world. Or do you just want to go sell another, cookie cutter product?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
the challenge.
Yeah. It's a challenge, right? Which does excite a lot of people. They love that thought, oh, do I really just want to sit there and be another number?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's definitely a profile, right, of person, the entrepreneurial person, the risk taker person. I think in every industry, in every walk of life and role, even there are those people that are built for that kind of risk taking, that challenge, and people that would prefer to have something that is just 9 to 5.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. So seeking that out is definitely a critical part I've seen, and at least some of the startups that we've invested in and supported. Well, that's great. That's great. So what is the future hold for KA Imaging, for you as an entrepreneur?
KA as a whole, we're growing it to $1 billion company, of course, but I think that's part of it, right? Just for me and the company, it's almost tied. We're trying to grow this to a big company, make our stake in Canada, show that we're Canadian companies. We've got amazing technology in Canada. Mm. And I think part of this is now, how do we commercialize this amazing technology? Canada's been good at commercialization, but not great. Mm-hmm. This is where I see, from a personal point of view, I think we need to do better. I think we can do better. I think, some of the new government programs have been helpful. I give some credit where there's some credit due. Mm-hmm. They've been bringing out some great programs that really help bridge that gap. And I think Canadians, from a personal point of view, I want to see more Canadian investors. I think that risk profile for Canadian investors is low. Mm-hmm. We've got most of our investments are non-Canadian.
Right.
We have very few Canadian early stage, which is great. The angels, they came in, they helped, they supported. Grand Challenges Canada came in, helped, supported, but most of our other money is non-Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see, how do we change that? How do we change that for the innovative economy that we have that can't get that initial funding?
Yeah. How about customers? Where are your customers mostly?
So we do have, coming back to some of these good programs in Canada, it helped get some of our early customers. So we do have a few customers here in Canada. We do have customers in the US, Asia, and now we're just starting a few in Europe.
So to some extent, you're one of the success stories in terms of like Canadian procurement, which everybody always complains about.
It's a pain. We're getting there. Like I said, some of these initial programs helped get us into the hospitals, and now we're working with Can Health, Obio. These are different organizations that have supported getting us into hospitals. Yeah, and now the procurement is now starting to move to that stage.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
It's a slow process here.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
I had an Asian customer come out, learn about what we're doing. This is supported by the Canadian Trade Commissioners. They did a trade mission with a certain country. They brought the people in. The CEO of the hospital was there. He brought his chief radiologist, and we met with them again at a conference a week later. They decided to buy 2 weeks later.
Nice. Yeah. And you know what? That brings me to a good point. It's something that I've definitely seen you take advantage of. I know you've been traveling quite a bit, even just recently. Yeah. But I'm also seeing that sometimes founders don't know about these resources, don't take advantage of the CTA resources, bringing in foreign markets, bringing in foreign customers and investors. Do you have any tips for founders kind of thinking about going global?
Yeah, engage with the Canadian Trade Commissioners. They, like everything, you're going to get fantastic ones and good ones. I'll just leave it at that for now.
They're trying.
Exactly. They're all trying. They're all trying to do their best, which is great. And they're always helpful. So anytime I go to a new country or a new city, they don't really have a trade commissioner there. Yeah. So I go meet with them or meet with the ambassador there or, the consulate general. I'll just tell them I want to meet with them. They're there. The ambassadors and consulate generals, they're appointed positions, but they're there for us. They're there for us as Canadians, and they will take the meetings. Like, there's no reason to be, shy to go meet with them because they want to know who's the Canadians doing business in in their region. Yeah. So they're very supportive, and they've made, like I said, the ones brought in from one of the Asian countries and brought in a sale. We want to do, vetting of potential partners or strategic partners in different countries. We can call them up and say, hey, do you know this company? What do you think of them? Have you interacted with them before? Or if we haven't, can you help us do some, quick due diligence on who these guys are? Are they worthwhile? Or is there some red flags that we should know about? Yeah. So we've really used their services quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can echo that. Canada has a great relationship with our partners in the trade commissions as well. And, they've been useful to us in so many different occasions. Yeah. I guess it comes down to that, kind of time-worn principle of like, you can't get help if you don't ask for it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, they're there to help. And, that's one resource. There's other resources, like even the Ontario, the provincial resources. They've got, let's say, trade commissioners, let's say, in their own way, in different cities across the world, and mainly in the U.S., but another great resource. Yeah. So use all the government resource. You don't have to pay for these people.
You're already paying for them.
Exactly. Our taxes are doing our job for us, but they've been fantastic. They're just there to help. And to your point, we're never, as an entrepreneur, you're never on your own. You may think you're on your own, but there's a network out there. Like, you guys, ventureLAB's fantastic to help with us. I've reached out to you, as you know, and you help with the pitches and a lot of different connections. There's a lot of things you can't do everything on your own. Yeah. And you can't sit there in a box thinking you're going to solve the problems. Use the networks that we have, like, the ventureLABs, the Communitechs, the Mars. And sorry, I'm pitching not just for you guys, but, use the other resources we have, the Canadian Trade Commissioners, Ontario commissioners. There's a lot of help we can get.
Yeah, no, for sure. And actually that brings me to my next question is like, I know you've engaged obviously with ventureLAB. We've worked together with a couple of other people at ventureLAB as well. I imagine, you've also engaged with a lot of these other resources like Mars and Communitechs of the world. But I guess my question is like, what's your advice to founders that are thinking about, they're building a company at the early stages and they're ready to ask for help? How should they be thinking about, engaging with some of these resources? What's the right way? That's the wrong way. What's too much? What's too little?
Oh boy,
what's the right time?
Yeah, I think I think as early as you can, because there's a lot of founders out there, as you know, as I've been on the other side of this as well, helping. There's never too early, because you don't know what you don't know. There's a lot. And I don't know everything. We as mentors in the past, we don't know everything. Yep. But we have a network. If you ask the right question, like, what am I struggling with? You may not have an answer today, but you go try your best to go help and get an answer. One thing about ventureLABs for us, the reason we engaged with you guys as well, was the hardware side. You have a strong hardware focus. And we are hardware at the fundamentals. We're creating better sensors, but we also have software aspects of it as well. But the reason we want to engage with yourselves was that hardware side. I think we first met last year or a few years ago at the hard tech conference. You hold a hard tech conference, compared to everybody else. So that was a great initiative for me to come to the conferences and engage with you guys there. I met you there, I believe, the first time. So it's like, great. Now we've got a hardware resource that we can use, because we've been frankly struggling a bit with a lot of the hardware side. Yeah. So it was great to leverage those resources.
Yeah, hardware is hard. And I do find there is a little bit of a balancing there sometimes. Like, I think it's about targeting the resources that you go after. So to your example, ventureLAB hardware, Mars has a very strong life science practice. Kind of figuring out what help you need, and then like kind of figuring out who has the ability to help you with that. As opposed to just like jumping from one initiative to another. There's also that concept of, I think they call them zombies or something like that, where it's like, you graduate from one incubator and then you go to the next one kind of thing.
No, we use the different resources for what we need, right? I've reached out to you on multiple hardware questions on building, designs, testing. In the past, we've reached out to Communitech and for other. They've got a program we use for hiring people in the U.S., for example. The Outpost program. So we've used that to hire our U.S. people. Mars has helped on investor contacts, in different meetings. So, use the resources where they're strong. And you don't know that unless you ask the right questions. You can ask the same question to everybody and
see what
it's
answers
fine,
they
right?
give you. Yeah.
Like we said, it's a network. You got to leverage the network we have.
Yeah. As they say, it takes a village, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think in ventureLAB, we're trying to build the hard tech village. But that's not the only piece, right? And so it does take a village to really get, get those success stories, get those billion-dollar companies in Canada, which luckily today we have some. I know when I started down the journey of being, a founder and then an investor and a mentor, we didn't have, the only ones we had were BlackBerry and Nortel. And we all know where that went. So it's great to see other success stories now. It's great to see other billion-dollar companies in Canada. I think we don't, even today, we've gotten a lot better at it, but I still think we don't do enough about celebrating our successes.
100% with you.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. In terms of any advice that you would have for founders wanting to build in hardware, because you talked about this a little bit before. Hardware is hard, right? That's why we call it hard tech. And so that's different than building a B2B SaaS company or trying to use ChatGPT to build you another application, leveraging AI. There's a lot of pathways that a founder can take, but I don't think hardware founders kind of necessarily choose to be hardware founders. They are hardware founders because they are those people. They're engineers, they're technologists. They have something they want to give in that respect, and their advantages as a founder lie in the hardware space. And so I think it'd be great to get an understanding from your perspective, having built one of these now. Any advice that you have for a founder building hard tech?
Sure. So I'll give this from a sense of what we did and how we did it versus, I get where you're coming from, the question, but also gives a sense of why I'm going to say this. So make sure you get your minimal viable product out, even if it's basic, and get feedback. That's extremely important because, people talk about the software. Yeah, it's easy to put something out there on an app on a phone, but it can be equally done in both hardware and healthcare. If you'd asked me before we did it, can you do MVP in healthcare? I would probably said no. I actually did say no. Or I said it's hard. It's very hard.
It is.
Because, healthcare, you think about regulatory. Can you test on a patient? You can't test on a patient. So we're coming up to one of our conferences called RSNA, the Radiological Society of North America. If we talk about an innovative company, what's new or what are we going to show? So we're talking to Kareem. Kareem's got some lab technology, this multi-layer technology. We said, okay, great. We prototyped that in 6 weeks. We got phantom images. So there's ways of doing things. Phantom image is just like tissue mimicking, like chest phantom. Like it looks like a chest, but it's just plastic stuff. And so we took that to that conference. We showed the radiologists comparing to what we were trying to commercialize. That was our first product. We did pivot. Our first product, which is a slightly better X-ray. This was a change, right? You got more images. You got these different details. You got that spectral side. People gravitated towards that. So we backburnered our initial product and refocused on this one based on taking an MVP to a conference and getting real feedback. And then we did a clinical trial and we got more feedback. And continue taking that feedback and, taking prototypes and getting feedback, images, and improving it. So, hardware, yes, you have to do multiple iterations. That first iteration is never going to be the one that you bring to market.
Yeah.
But try and get that done. Yes, if it's not perfect, it's okay.
Yeah.
Get it done, get it in front of people, and get that feedback.
Yeah. Put your product in front of customers.
Exactly.
Get that customer feedback. I find people working on tech often are afraid to go to customers.
Yeah.
You have to talk to your customer, even if it's hardware, even if it's
Exactly.
an MVP.
Yeah.
It's so critical.
There's no such thing as perfect, right?
No, and I think there never is, but also without that customer feedback, you could be just going down the wrong road.
Exactly.
You could spend 2-3 years going down the wrong road, spending all that money in grants and all that stuff, only to find out once you finally talk to the customer, they don't want what you're buying. And then what's the point of building it if they don't want it, right? No, that's a great advice, I would say. I think we're wrapping up on time here, but maybe I might give you a chance to any other kind of words of wisdom that you want to share with the viewers back home. Any tips that you found especially useful? Any books that you've read that you would recommend?
Oh yeah, book for sure. I really like Never Split the Difference. I forgot the author, damn it. Never Split the Difference, Negotiation Tactics. It's about one of the CIA negotiator that wrote the book.
Interesting.
So I really liked his approach. I obviously hesitantly give it to my staff because I don't want them to use it to negotiate with me. Yeah. But I think it's a great book for people to think about how to, before you go into negotiations, and everything's a negotiation, right? You're talking to suppliers, you're talking to strategic partners, investors. I think it's a great book to start with. Other advice, just keep at it. There's, there'll always be ups and downs, but you got to keep your positive and keep driving and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, there's obviously limitations to everything, but I'm always a big fan of passion. Find something that you're passionate about, and you'll always be motivated to do it.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're doing something just for the money, just because you think it's interesting, it's hard to stay motivated when things get tough. Yeah. And so you got to be passionate about the thing that you're executing on. Yeah. But no, that makes a lot of sense. I'll have to read that Never Split the Difference books. So I'll put that on my list as well.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, Amol, it's been great talking to you.
Thanks,
again. Great to have this kind of more open conversation than just only talking about your pitch and your deck and your strategy and who the investors are and all that kind of stuff. It's a different context. So always great to have these conversations. But thanks for coming out.
And thanks for having me here, Yuri. Much appreciated.
All right. Fantastic. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.